Speedway Report is a production of ZTV. Well, NASCAR had a big day in Darlington on Sunday. Short tracks are creeping back into the picture, but slowly, and this would have been a day to look at the Indy 500 grid. All this and more coming up. Welcome to Speedway Report, Monday, May the 18th, 2020, from the shores of Lake Norman in Race City, USA, Mooresville, North Carolina. I'm Patrick Reynolds, and thank you for joining the fastest half hour in racing. We are continually working on upgrading our equipment through the pandemic. It has actually slowed us a little bit, so I appreciate everybody's patience, bearing with us as we work our way through Facebook Live, YouTube Live. We need some equipment upgrades. It's very difficult to do right now. I will not bore you with the details. I'm thrilled to appear to be live on Facebook this evening, May the 18th. I hope we are anyway. If not, well, hopefully it's at least recording and I can upload it later. And I hope all of you are staying safe and taking care of yourselves during the COVID-19 pandemic. Well, no more iRacing, and we have some Victory Lane report singular to give to you as NASCAR Cup Series went racing yesterday afternoon into the evening in Darlington, South Carolina for 400 miles, and Kevin Harvick was your winner. Boy, feels like such a long time since I actually announced the winner of any type of a NASCAR race. Coming up on the horizon this coming weekend are the World of Outlaw late models in Jackson, Minnesota, and the World of Outlaw sprints at Kenny Schrader's racetrack in Pevely, Missouri. Neither event will have any fans, much like we all saw yesterday on TV at Darlington, but both events will be available online for you to watch. Locally, to me, there's some short tracks opening up, again, with no fans, some with. We'll cover that a little bit later tonight. And the biggest short track that we have, smallest in size, biggest in crowd numbers, the Bowman Gray Stadium in Winston-Salem, North Carolina, has announced that the season opening Hayes Jewelers 200 indefinitely put on hold. The schedule is in suspension. We're going to get into that tonight because I'm in touch with a little bit of the North Carolina state laws, not really laws, but the orders that are put in place for this whole health crisis. We're going to talk a little bit about that and how it varies all around the country, which has been giving us much to talk about for the last several weeks. But let's get to the action at Darlington yesterday. South Carolina, the Lady in Black, the home of the granddaddy of them all, NASCAR's first super speedway, run without any fans yesterday. And you can make all the jokes you want. Just like normal, no fans. Yeah, you're not funny, dude. You never were. It's a bad joke, not original, pretty predictable, and not true. But the grandstands were totally empty yesterday. I did watch it on TV. Strange-looking sight, because we've seen many tracks where we go, ooh, yeah, fan count's down, fan count is weak. One with absolutely a closed grandstand was a very weird sight to see. It's very pronounced when Kevin Harvick got out of the car, did some burnouts at the start-finish line, and it's quiet. There's nobody there. It's a very odd-looking situation. There's only 4 written media reporters were on site. They did not have infield access, but they were all in the tower overlooking Turn 3, which is where the press box is. I think Jenna Fryer was one. Kelly Crandall was another. There were 2 others I cannot remember. Matt Weaver will be on hand for the Xfinity race and the Cup race coming up during this week. But there was no infield access. Regan Smith did a yeoman's job for Fox Sports on TV, roaming up and down pit road. As he had no PR help, no spotters, no radios, no guidance at all. He just had eyes and ears on his own. And he looked around, tried to find the story, and deliver those interviews and information as best he could. Big hat tip to Regan Smith for his work yesterday. But in the big picture of things, this was a big moment for NASCAR as they somewhat led the way in the world of sports. The UFC was officially the first organization, what I'm going to call the first major league sporting organization to come back. They had some events Saturday night. And both NASCAR and UFC were on this conference call several weeks ago with President Trump about what to do during this health situation, how to reopen, what our schedules would look like for America. Yesterday was a huge win just for the world of sports. NASCAR, what they really had to do yesterday was set the example. Show the world that we can do this, show the world that we can have sports. We didn't fall into a lockdown in this country overnight. We aren't going to relax all the restrictions and reopen overnight either. It took steps as we got tighter and tighter and restricted. As we open back up, that will also happen in steps. To just start yesterday, we had a race. I complain all the time about stuff with NASCAR. I'm not going to do that today because we had a race. You know the stuff I don't like about the sport that I complain about? There's so many things that to love. There's so many things I can't stand. I beat it up all the time, but there was a race yesterday. So there was, in light of things, when you go to comparison, shouldn't we all just be embracing the fact that we're racing? I can be critical at another time, and I sure will, because I'd like some things changed how they are, but it was a race, and it was wonderful, and it was glorious. And NASCAR really had to set an example with gloves, masks, social distancing, proper etiquette, which they did for the most part. If you want to nitpick and be a perfectionist, as we looked at the video yesterday, there were times when we did not adhere to the letter of the law. But for the most part, we did. And the several hundred people that were on site in South Carolina did a very good job. This was just really what what needed to happen. NASCAR did is hold an event and don't screw it up. Here's the health protocols. No fighting. Don't break the health protocols. Have a race. Do an event. We have pit stops and stages and cautions, and there were crashes, and we ran this race, and it was good. It was a wonderful thing, and it showed the sports world that sports can take place. Not how we usually do things, not normally, but they can occur, which I think gave so many people a glimmer of hope, some positive energy, something. They set an example. They took the health protocols seriously. There were heavy fines if you did not. There was not an option. Those masks and gloves, those were kind of like pants yesterday. You're going to wear them, and that's that. There's no or else. There was no or. There was no option. You were going to adhere to all of the social distancing and health protocols go in place. Now, as I was on a conference call earlier today, and somebody was telling me about his timeline, like in his social media, and he said so many people were complaining about the masks yesterday that were on air in Darlington, South Carolina. And he admitted his timeline was filled with good old boys, and which I'm a proud Southerner, transplanted Northerner, but I consider myself a proud Southerner. He admits his friends group, because he's a native Southerner, were the good old boys, and a little bit of that rebel spirit came to light, and a lot of his folks were complaining about the masks, how stupid they look, how stupid they sound. And one of the best responses to all this that I don't think he saw, but what I saw, was from, of all people, Regan Smith's wife. And she pretty much says, look, like I said earlier, the mask wasn't an option. It wasn't if you feel comfortable. If this, if that, there was no options. Like, you will wear a mask, and there's going to be a huge fine if you do not. So she welcomed anyone that was critical of how stupid, air quotes, stupid Regan looked, to go ahead and pay the fine. Go ahead, and he could take the mask off. What I saw yesterday was, I admit this is secondhand information with the masks. What I saw yesterday, and I thought it was glorious, was so many first-time NASCAR fans. They joined the action. They said, hey, excuse me for my stupid questions, but this is cool, but I don't know what's going on with everything. Give me a favorite driver. Who should I root for? Why should I root for them? What's going on? I don't really understand everything, but it was so neat to have all kinds of first-timers. There was a woman with the WWE. He was admitted she was watching NASCAR for the first time. There was a producer for the NBC Today show in New York, admitted him watching NASCAR for the first time. I welcome these people on board. It was fantastic to see them, fantastic to have them. And in a case like that, I'll admit there are no such thing as a stupid question. In life, yes, I do agree that there are such things as stupid questions. But when you're a first time to a racetrack, this can be very confusing. When we are in school, we play baseball or football or some sort of sports in gym class, but we don't really play auto racing in gym class or in PE growing up. So the fundamentals of it aren't explained to those that don't follow the sport. There's a lot of nuances and particular details that really are not apparent. Most people know you don't, if you don't have to follow the sport to understand 3 strikes are out in baseball. A touchdown in football is worth 6 points, but not everybody's going to know what a stage is in the cup race and why they do it and when they do it and what's that mean. Why are they coming down pit road and why are these guys working on the cars? These are basic questions that I get from a first-time viewer. You're not going to know the answer to, so go ahead and ask them. I was thrilled that you were a part of the broadcast, all these people, and it was good to see so many people within the industry, as track sponsors, inviting these folks back again, that if you wanted to come to a race in person, wanted to take a trip, we'd love to have you as a guest. I thought it was fantastic, and the overnight ratings came in where about 6 million people were watched the Darlington race yesterday. Stronger than their ratings have been for several years. However, I didn't know what to expect, but for some reason I thought the numbers would even be higher than that. It wasn't these monster off-the-chart ratings, but a very strong, healthy rating for yesterday's race with about 6.5 million people tuning in. So what did you think? What did you think of Darlington yesterday? Not just the race, which I'll admit, it wasn't a Hall of Fame classic photo finish type of race. No, it wasn't. But I loved it, that the fact that it happened, and it was a big deal. And you guys know me, I criticize NASCAR all the time, and that I don't always watch it on Sunday afternoons, and I miss it because I got better things to do. I watched every lap yesterday. We haven't been to a racetrack in weeks. We haven't had a race in weeks. It was good to see. So what did you guys think? Type it in the comments if you want. I want to hear what you thought of the race with no fans, the race itself, the protocol, what NASCAR did. I thought it was fantastic that they led the way in the world of sports to reopen America and at least have some sense of normalcy return from them. Now, what's on the plate coming up here? Busy, busy, busy times. If you're watching us live, May 18th is where we are on the East Coast, and I'm going to roll you through what's coming up in the next week and a half right around the area. Tomorrow night, Tuesday, May 19th, the Xfinity Series will race at Darlington. That was scheduled for an 8 p.m. starting time. It has now been moved up 2 hours to a 6 p.m. starting time because of the weather in the area. We've got looks like a tropical storm off the coast of North Carolina. Inland, closer to where I am in Charlotte, we're getting some showers, so not a big deal. But Darlington could be affected as well, not with really a storm, but rain could be in the area. So the Xfinity Series scheduled to be at Darlington on Tuesday the 19th. The Cup cars will return to Darlington Wednesday the 20th, where they'll run 500 kilometers, about 311 miles around the oval. That will be Wednesday night. Both events will be on FS1. Sunday the 24th, Memorial Day weekend, the annual running of the World 600 at the Charlotte Motor Speedway. That will take place Sunday evening, and that is the first of 4 straight nights of racing at the Charlotte Motor Speedway. Sunday the 24th, World 600. Monday, Memorial Day the 25th, it will be the Xfinity race, will be at Charlotte. Tuesday, May 26th, will be the truck race at Charlotte. Then the Cup cars return on Wednesday the 27th for another Cup race there. They will be on the oval and not the roval there on Wednesday the 27th. For the logistics, it doesn't make sense for ask these guys to prepare a road course car for the roval when we're just trying to make up races and get bare minimum laps in. So it's easy for them. Easy. I use air quotes for that. But it's much more of a routine for them to prepare a downforce car for the oval that will happen on Wednesday the 27th. Now, what's up with NASCAR short track touring? We don't really know yet. I know so many modified fans are part of our audience, and I'm a huge one. I grew up with the modifieds. I want to know when the mod tour is going to get going again. I don't know. NASCAR has stated that they want to get a handle on their national touring series. The following week after Charlotte, we will be going with the Cup cars to Bristol, Tennessee. And a lot of these races will be doubles and triples within a few hours drive here of Charlotte, North Carolina, as this is a fluid schedule. I got asked a few days ago, hey, man, what are you talking about on your show? Not that there's no racing. I said, actually, COVID-19 has provided me with plenty of news all the time, because racing, we get a estimated projection, and it changes every show for Speedway Report. So obviously we'll be following NASCAR's regional touring. I want the modifieds to get back going again, as bad as anyone, but we'll have to see. I don't know. There's really no news on that yet. I've got some, a few modified dates on the calendar that I talked about earlier this year that I would absolutely love to go to, but I don't know if I'll go there and see the actual race or what, but, we got to find out what's happening with a lot of things first, including the National Series and then the Touring Series. And how about Matt Kenseth with a big 10th place finish yesterday? Hasn't been in a Cup car since November of 2018. Hops and Chip Ganassi's ride guides it to a top 10 at Darlington, of all places. Good for Matt. Neighbor of mine doesn't live too far from here. I know we go to the same firehouse to vote during the election season because I've seen him there. So we live in the same section of town. So, yeah, good to see Matt come home with a top 10. Great job. Now, I wanted to touch on this last week, but we did not go live. There's going to be 3 tracks that the Cup Series does not go to, at least for a race. Chicago, Sears Point out in California, and one of the races at Richmond, Virginia will be sacrificed to try to get races in as we swap those races to these races close to the Charlotte area here, where we can just try to get in some laps and get some sort of a schedule going as the spring marches on and we get closer to summertime. Now, the Chicago Speedway is selling some of their land. Don't know if that means the Chicago Speedway is done, or if maybe some of it, the land and the parking will just be repurposed. With the grandstands that were built in the early 2000s, these massive sellouts were happening with 50,000, 60,000, 75,000 people. Not the case anymore. A lot of that land that could be used for parking and camping sold off, could use for another purpose and maybe be a revenue generator for the Speedway. So to say the Chicagoland Speedway is out and will not be back, I doubt that. It's in the Chicago market, even though it's not in Chicago by any means, but out in the middle of nowhere. Certainly a market that NASCAR wants to be in, an added value for their sponsors. Is the track done? No, I doubt it. Is the land being repurposed for something else? That I will buy. Local fans to here in North Carolina, and this pertains to anyone watching as far as their local short track goes. Hickory, North Carolina raced with no fans last Saturday night. The racing was available online if you wish to purchase it. Josh Berry, who drives for Dale Earnhardt Jr., won both halves of the twin late model stock car races. Hickory tried it. They were available online. This coming Friday night at Ace Speedway here in North Carolina will have their opening night race. Fans will be allowed. Now, this Friday, May 22nd, begins a 2-week period after phase 1 of reopening here in North Carolina began. So this is that will be the first day of phase 2. Gatherings are allowed of no more than 50 people. Now, I don't know where the definition of this is. Obviously, as I look ahead, what we just talked about, the races at Charlotte Motor Speedway, there's going to be a whole lot more than 50 people that is required to put on those races. There's several hundred people. However, with no grandstands, do they just count those 50 as the fan count? Now, Ace Speedway I don't know how they're going to do this with fans being allowed. Yet a gathering with no more than 50 people in North Carolina, that's what the statute says. At the moment, Ace Speedway says that they are going to open up as well as allow the fans in and see what happens. I'll try to look it up and get some information on this, get some data, do some research, I'll be darned. It's very tough to pin down what our orders say, what the phase 2 exactly says for details, and what a Speedway is planning. So I'm having a difficult time getting the details of this. If I get any good stuff on social media, I'll pass it along on the Speedway Report channels, because let's face it, Friday night, I would love to go. It's Memorial Day weekend. I will not be where I should be, which is Indianapolis, Indiana, with the Indy 500. We should be chatting tonight about the grid being set for the greatest spectacle in racing. I should be on my way to 16th in Georgetown for the rest of the week, but alas, I am not, as that will take place in late August. This is where it really feels weird to me, as Memorial Day weekend is coming up and there has been just no action at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. Now, the town and the neighbors and the folks that I know up there are still putting out their decorations. It's kind of like Christmas up there in Indianapolis. They're putting out their decorations, their welcome race fan signs, their checkered flags. They're still celebrating. It's sort of like when December rolls around, a little bit of the Grinch and Christmas. Grinch takes the presents, it's still Christmas. And May in Indianapolis is still May in Indianapolis, even though you don't have the race. So it's a big time. It's a very unusual time, that just how things are, the tradition of the calendar and what things are, what things should be. And yet here we are looking at Memorial Day weekend coming up, and there will be no Indianapolis 500 this weekend. A couple of weeks ago, we raced on a track that no longer holds races, that the North Wilkesboro Speedway had an I-race, and it certainly stirred some interest in this track. The young crowd I get hasn't had much experience, as the place has been closed since the early, let's say, I think 2011 or so was the last late model race that ran there. And as far as NASCAR Cup is concerned, the Winston Cup Series last race there in 1996. I have been there. I've seen the Cup races there. I've seen the modified and the late model races there, and I used to watch it on cable TV in the 1980s. Wonderful track if someone could buy it, invest it, and I'd love to see it, bring it back to life. Don't know if it ever will, but I'd love it if it happened. And it's a couple weeks out. We do want to send our thoughts and prayers to the family of Larry Curry, who we lost since our last show 2 weeks ago. He was an IndyCar Series crew chief, and he had a few strokes in the past couple of years. He was the guy, Larry Curry, as the crew chief. He is the guy that convinced John Menard to hire Tony Stewart for the Indy Racing League when they formed in 1996. Tony was a USAC Triple Crown champion, went to the IRL. He fit the mold that Tony George wanted, with an all-oval series and promoting guys from short tracks up to IndyCar racing. That launched his career to a national stage. Wow, how the world of racing would have looked different if it wasn't for Larry Curry talking to John Menard into hiring Tony Stewart. We also lost Southern short track legend Monk Tate since our last show. Often a teammate to Sam Ard here in the Carolinas, sportsman driver, modified driver, and still owned a late model stock car team. God, rest in peace, fellas. Both of them, Larry Curry and Monk Tate, added so much to auto racing over the years. In tribute to Dave Despain and Motor Week Illustrated, I'm going to give our Racer of the Week. It's easy to look at the winners, and I always try to look beyond the winners for who really drove, who really put on the display. Often it is the winner, and that's fair enough. But this week, the Racer of the Week, man, I'm going to give it to Matt the Brat. Matt Kenseth, in his return, a year and a half away from this sport, hops in a new ride, 10th place finish at Darlington, South Carolina. Nice job, Matt. And of course, I'm sure he's tuned in here. Hey, that's why that's why Darlington scheduled races for Sunday, Tuesday, and Wednesday of this week. They didn't want to mess with Speedway Report. Remember when the Daytona 500 was run on a Monday night, and I'm sure I put a dent in their ratings in 2012. Remember that? Yeah. Fox is still mad at me over that one. Everybody, in between our broadcasts, keep up on the world of racing with SpeedwayReport.com. We've got all of our archived shows there, and we're on social media. Give you the rundown here on Facebook. It's Speedway Report with Patrick Reynolds and Racers Reunion. On Twitter, the show handle is at Speedway Report. Mine is at Speedway Pat. And you can also catch up to us on racersreunion.com and go to the forum there. I want to thank all of the military past and present for the freedoms we enjoy as Americans in our daily life, including the simple things like bench racing right here on a Monday night. Freedom is not free, and a veteran paid that bill for us. To all of the men and women who are defending freedom and watching Speedway Report, you take care of yourselves and come home soon. And so emphasized in this time of this health crisis, a special salute to the school teachers, school staff, firefighters, police officers, and paramedics in our own communities. They are quiet and modest heroes every single day. God bless and thank you. You have been watching Speedway Report from the shores of Lake Norman in Race City, USA, Mooresville, North Carolina. Please like our Facebook page, Speedway Report with Patrick Reynolds, and you can follow me on Twitter at Speedway Pat. Now, on the Drag Racing List Facebook page next is Drag List Live. You join Bill Pratt and John Bockelman with Drag Racing Talk at the top of the hour. Just head on over to Drag Racing List right here on Facebook. Now, I'll be back live here on Monday, Memorial Day, May the 25th. I'm usually off that night every year because I'm driving back from Indianapolis. There's no Indy 500 to go to. I'll see you next Monday. We'll have the latest report on scheduling within the industry because everything I told you may have changed by next Monday. We'll get you the recap of the Charlotte 600. Thank you all for watching. You take care of yourselves, and please take care of each other. I'll see you all next week.